back to the newspaper question of why they didn't make the transition. I think they were monopolies, sat on their lead, and you had people in management that were not innovative, creative thinkers who wanted to break things. I mean, because at a startup you got to go in and break stuff.
Yeah.
And you had more established people that were running these organizations that had been, who are good people and smart people, but they'd just been in these organizations for so long that they weren't. It's it's the innovator's dilemma. They weren't going to break apart the traditional newspaper. And I remember going to some of the management at the PI and saying at the time, are you ready to make the physical newspaper worse? Because that's what you have to do in order to survive. You gotta put 80% of your resources online and 20 into the physical paper. And it was probably 90% going to the physical paper and 10% online.
Jeez.
And I was like, you gotta flip that.
Yeah.
If you have any hope to make this leap, you gotta flip it. And that's a hard sell.
So one thing that I've thought about is, if you think about that industry, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's such an old industry that the executives that are running these companies, they're not innovators in the general sense. They've
That's right.
It's a business that's been around for 100 years.
Yeah, and it had operated very much in the same way for a long time, and they thought they were going to roll with it on that way. And
so it doesn't surprise
hard.
me when the industry got hit to a point where they're going down because their innovation is not in their blood, and they can't even actually get to the point where they're evaluating the 90-10 or 80-20, 90-10.
I don't even think they could get to that point. That said, if they even got to that point, there's no guaranteeing that they actually would have been successful because there's a whole legacy business there that they had to somehow transition. You see media companies going through this to this day. So you see a lot of newspaper companies that are now shedding their print product or reducing the number of days that they're distributing. And I think you're just going to see more of that. I mean, we're in an online mobile world, and I don't think my son, who's 3.5, is going to be. He's going to ask me what a newspaper is. He's going to think it's the weirdest thing that I work for this thing called a newspaper that delivered a printed copy of something with information in it to people's doorsteps every morning.
Where's the links?
It's going to just seem so foreign to him.
So what's crazy is it's like in your rearview mirror now. I mean, you're just like,
It was in my rearview mirror when I was at the PI, frankly. I had moved on. I mean, the thing was, I was covering a lot of startups in the media space, and I was covering where the money was flowing, and my readers had already made the migration, and my readers I thought were the early adopters because they were more plugged into technology, and I was like, okay, that's just going to happen with all readers in every segment, and it has, certainly.